All right, happy Sunday evening, Bears fans, and welcome into Chicago Bears Now. It is free agency eve, although doesn't really feel like it as we just saw DK Metcalf get traded, Devontae Adams signed with the Rams, a couple of big extensions with Josh Allen, Myles Garrett. So things are starting to happen, and rumors are starting to flow for a lot of teams, but including the Chicago Bears. So we're going to get you caught up on the latest of what's been circulating. Before we do just that, subscribe and join us. Myself, producer Cullen, we will be live tomorrow, 10 o'clock Central Time here on the channel. The legal tampering period, aka when free agents can start verbally agreeing to contracts, will start at 11 a.m. Central tomorrow, 12 Eastern for those on the East Coast. So join us tomorrow at that time, and we will have you guys covered with every Bears move. We'll discuss other NFL moves that happen in free agency as well. It's going to be a busy day and potentially a busy Bears day, so rock and roll with us. We've had a blast the last couple of years being live for free agency. No different this time around. Okay, Drew Dalman. Still a lot of buzz. Now, there's been buzz before heading into free agency between the Bears and players and ended up being a smokescreen, but at one point or another, just about every NFL insider has linked Drew Dalman, the Falcons' free agent to be center, to the Chicago Bears. Jordan Schultz today saying that the league and sources in the NFL view the Bears as a serious suitor. Albert Breer added today that Dalman could be the final piece to Ryan Poles' kind of rebuilt offensive line. Obviously, left tackle is still somewhat of a question, at least in terms of competition, but center is that focal point for what the Bears want and need to do next on this offensive line. And look, I've gone back and forth on Dalman. It would be an overpay, no question about it. He's probably going to get $15 million per year, if not more, especially with how many guys have re-signed before free agency, it being a bad center market. He's going to get a lot of money. I would understand it, though, and I'd be okay with it. Like, I'm not going to pout if Drew Dalman ends up being this team's center. But I do think there are some limitations to his game, especially as a pass protector. Is Ben Johnson going to do more wide zone or gap or kind of a multitude of things? I would imagine it's a pretty multiple offense that they're going to build. They did sign a mauler at guard and Jonah Jackson, kind of a do-it-all guard, and Joe Thuney. So I think they'll be able to be flexible. I'm not going to sit here and act like I think it would be a bad decision if they got Drew Dalman. I'd be fine with it. I think overall, it would probably be a net positive, even if you end up overpaying. Just understand that it's probably an overpay, and guys who are offensive line experts kind of think he's an average to above average player. Nate Tice said that. Brandon Thorne, who I think is the best in the game for offensive line analysis, he's kind of lukewarm on the idea for the Bears. So again, I'm not against it. Just understand it's not like you're getting a top 5 center in football. You're probably getting, on his best day, the 8th best center, and on his worst day, a league average center. And hey, that's better than what you've had. And if you're just looking for stability and someone who can make checks at the line of scrimmage, I understand it. I'm cool with it. The Bears center has been a disaster. They've kind of put themselves in this position by not finding a long-term solution sooner. So again, I'm not going to gripe if this is the route they go. I'm also not going to gripe if they don't go this route. Like, if they want to sign a 1 or 2 year guy and then try to draft a Gray Zabel or someone like that, I'd be cool with that as well. Certainly not against that. I guess at this point, the best way I can put it is I'm cool either way. If they overpay and get them, so be it. Sometimes, for a 53-man roster, you're going to have a handful of guys that you have to overpay for to fill holes. That's just the way free agency works. But if they don't want to do that and they want to go elsewhere, I'm cool with that as well. I'm not going to lose my mind. Why wouldn't they pay Drew Dalman? Well, maybe because he's not an elite player and they don't want to pay him like one. Well, why did they pay him like an elite player? Because it's that big of a need. So, again, I'm not trying to play both sides of it. I'd like to have a stronger opinion one way or the other. I see both sides, and I'm not going to go full Skip Bayless if I don't believe one way or the other. I think there's arguments to be made for either side of the coin. So we'll see what happens. We'll see what the number is if they end up signing him. It certainly sounds like if it does happen, it could happen pretty early tomorrow. So again, subscribe, join us. We'll have it covered. This one continues to be interesting and catch my attention. At first, the Khalil Mack stuff, you're like, yeah, probably a long shot, right? Like, is he going to want to come back to Chicago Would Ryan Poles want to sign him after he was the one that traded him? One of the first moves he made as the Bears GM. He's 34 now. There's a lot of things there. Well, throughout the week, more and more insiders mentioned it. Albert Breer said the Bears might look to bring him back. Could get around $15 million for a one-year deal, which, by the way, let me just say that $15 million for Khil Mack, I'd be all in on that price if that's what it ends up being. Even 2 years, 2 years for 30. There's been chatter he could get north of $20 million. So if you can get him in that 15 range, I'm absolutely all over it. I really like the idea. We know what he brings to the table. He's still a really good player. Yeah, he's not going to play 80% of snaps at 34 years old, but I still think he can play 60 to 70% of snaps, be a three-down player, and really help. He can set the edge in the run game, just like Montez Sweat can. He's a more talented pass rusher than Montez Sweat, even at this stage in his career. I think he can kind of be for the defense what Joe Thuney hopefully will be for the offense, and that's just a veteran tone setter for the young guys, because there is a lot of young talent on this roster that doesn't know how to win yet. Khalil Mack hasn't won a Super Bowl or anything, but he was a part of that 2018 Bears team. He was a part of a Chargers team last year that overachieved and got to the playoffs, right? Like we're hoping this Bears team is a team that can do something like that, win 10, 11, 12 games next year. I think he can help you do that. So I like the idea of Khalil Mack quite a bit. A, he can still play. B, I think the value in the locker room is huge. And we'll see if that ends up coming to fruition. And the fact that he hasn't re-signed with the Chargers yet, especially after they cut Joey Bosa, I think at minimum he wants to hit the open market and see what teams are interested in. I think the Bears will be one of those. Okay, if you had to just pick one of these guys, who would you rather have? Drew Dalman or Khalil Mack? I get the age. I get all that stuff. I think Drew Dalman helps you longer. I think Khalil Mack is a better football player in 2025 for 1 year. So it's all about what you're looking for. I'd probably rather go Khalil Mack and then go with a 1 or 2 year deal at center and then draft a center. But I understand everyone wants Drew Dalman. I don't not want him. I just the price just worries me a little bit. I've kind of beat that dead horse. So you guys let me know. Drew Dalman, Khalil Mack, who would you rather sign? And then what about Trey Hendrickson? It's been a busy day. Does Myles Garrett getting $40 million per year? Does that impact teams' interest in trading for Hendrickson? Now, let me be clear. If it costs $40 million to extend Hendrickson, I'm out. Even I wouldn't do that, and I'm willing to be pretty aggressive here. But, does he sniff Max Crosby, $35-36 million per year? Certainly possible. He's 30. Crosby was 28. Garrett's 29, but I think out of the three, Garrett's a 5-tool player, and he just had the Browns bent over. He wanted to leave, but they refused to, so I think it's pretty obvious. So, okay, give me 40 a year, and they just did it. They bent the knee. So, I don't think Hendrickson's getting that. Here's kind of where I'm at. I am still interested in Hendrickson. If a trade value doesn't add up to a first-round pick, and you get him, a second-round pick, or trade a second and get a day 3 pick back, and then extend him 2 to 3 years, low 30s, 3 for 100. 3 years, $100 million. He has 1 year left at 18, 20 million. So, maybe it turns into a 4 for 120, 30 a year with, 80, 90 guaranteed. Can you get that? Is that on the table for a guy who's, a year and a half older than Max Crosby, isn't quite the run defender? 36, that would be a lot for him to top Crosby. 40, forget it. I'm not doing that. But if you can get him in that 30 to 33 million range on a new 2 or 3 year extension, and then trade for him without giving up a first round pick, I think I'm still on board. Look, I love the Khalil Mack reunion idea. I'm all in, but I think Trey Hendrickson is a guy that fears opposing offensive coordinator, or that opposing offensive coordinators fear. So if you could pair him with Sweat, maybe you get a guy like a Jonathan Allen on a free agent bargain deal, maybe 10 to 12 million bucks or something like that. Not sure what his market would be. I think that would be fantastic. Even Javon Hargrave as well. So we'll see what happens there. Certainly not out on Hendrickson. I got to think the Commanders are going to push hard there as well. So certainly going to be a lot of competition. All right, that's going to do it for 4 Verts. Remember, subscribe. Join us tomorrow, 10 a.m. Central Time. We got you guys covered. If there's major news or whatever before then, we'll have a video on that as well. My name is Harrison Graham. Bear down.